Welcome to Heroes and Droids, your guide to movies and TV shows about superheroes, sci-fi, Disney, and action, from Marvel to DC, Star Wars to Star Trek, from James Bond to the Fast and the Furious. We will review theatrical films and streaming delays you care about most. And this week we're reviewing Gunpowder Milkshake, which is streaming on Netflix. Oh boy. Oh, I'm your host, Doc Rotten. Joining me tonight are Christopher G. Moore, the award-winning filmmaker. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I love that the milkshake brings all the gunpowder to the yard.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Nice. That's corny. I love it. I love it. All right.
Well, there's some corniness we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, there's a lot of corny. All right, we want to welcome special guest host Jeff Moore. Jeff, how you doing, sir? And welcome to Heroes and Droids.
Yeah, this is my first time hearing that theme song. I like it. I like it.
There's only 74 other episodes you could have listened to, but that's okay.
No, okay. First time hearing it internally. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen.
Inside the black box instead of
that's not helping. You're digging yourself.
I like that you almost did an impression of Nicki Minaj there. Okay. But go ahead.
All right. What we're going to do is give our first impression of the film, which will be spoiler-free. Then we'll dive into a discussion, which we'll get into spoilers, and then we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5 at our favorite scene. What is this crazy-ass film we're talking about? We're talking about Gunpowder Milkshake. It's a 2021 film on Netflix, beginning streaming on July 14th, 2021. Directed by Navot Papushado, written by Navot. I'm going to say it's Navot. Is it Navot or Navot? Navot. Papushado and Ehud Lavsky. Cast includes, but is not limited to, Karen Gillian, Carla Gugino, Freya Allen, Lena Headey, Michelle Yeoh, Angela Bassett, Paul Giamatti, Ralph Anson, and Chloe Coleman. Half of those I butchered. The other half I did okay. The synopsis is 3 generations of women fight back against those who could take everything from them. That's oversimplifying things, but it's not wrong. All right, let's get into our first impressions. And Christopher G. Moore, I am going to put you up first. What is your first impression of Gunpowder Milkshake?
This is right at my bowling alley too.
Nice.
To make a reference to the film. I love this film. I mean, it's goofy action fun, and it definitely wears its inspirations on its sleeve. I mean, it definitely has a little bit of Tarantino in it. It's almost like Tarantino meets John Wick with a little Matthew Vaughn. You know, it's a little bit of Kingsman. You know, it's a little bit of everything, I think. But it definitely has a goofy sensibility of it. It's almost like even a little bit of Tim Burton just in some of the production design is so like overtly goofy, but in a good way for me, because some of the production design is really cool. And also you just have all these amazing actresses that are part of this. And just seeing a lot of the badass action stuff with a lot of these actresses, I think, to me, sold me. And it also has a lot of really entertaining, I mean, I would say brilliant action scenes, and just how it's composed and the specific issues that are involved with it. So yeah, I love the shit out of this film. It really was entertaining for me. Yeah, the goofiness and the logic around it maybe might not make sense. So you could probably say the same thing about the John Wick films, because it has a little bit of the weird logic around things. But at the same time, I enjoyed every minute of it. And also just to see some of these, again, to see a lot of these well-known older actresses fighting along some of the younger, it totally worked. So yeah, I was really entertained by this. I'd love to see more stories in this universe. But yeah, you also have to sort of take in the goofy aspects of it that go along with the action parts. But yeah, I really love this film.
Really love the film. All right, Jeff Moore, sir. What is your first impression of Gunpowder Milkshake?
I thought it was fun too. I liked the fight choreography as it went on. Early on, I felt like it was a little off in like the earliest scene, possibly in the bowling alley, but then things picked up. It ended well, and then it took off from there for me anyway. I too liked all the actors that were in it, especially, I mean, it was a great cast, especially the women, and you can't shake a stick at Paul Giamatti either. But it was kind of a neat story. There was some stuff that didn't, if you thought about it very much, it didn't make a lot of sense, but it was still fun. Chris put up a bunch of references or influences. I was thinking it was a little bit like John Wick meets Sergio Leone to a certain extent. There was a lot of these standoffs where everybody's looking at each other before anything happens. So I thought that was kind of cool. I like the relationship with the girl, what's going on there. So I hope that doesn't go too far into spoilers.
Nope.
So yeah, fun. The sets, the weapons. Oh my God. Lena Headey's set of matched guns with the attachments. That was just really, I really like that. I really like that. Anyway, it was fun. And I thought the music added to it. Even with an old Animals cover of a Bob Dylan song.
Is that what that was? Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. No, that's cool.
Oh, and I have one little. Nobody cares about this but me, but the editor is Nicholas de Toth, who is the son of Andre de Toth, who directed, among many movies, he directed House of Wax back in the early 50s with Vincent Price. So Hollywood.
Yes.
Ancestors.
So that took a lot of editing for this film because it needed editing, and it got it. That might be one of the film's strengths for me. I didn't enjoy this movie as much as you guys did. I enjoyed the elements that you guys are describing. With the cast is phenomenal. I loved the relationship between Lena Headey and Karen Gillan and Chloe Coleman. That's your three generations, and it was even though it is and it isn't, right? But at the same time, I like that, and Paul Giamatti as well. But I often thought the film was quite full of itself and doing things to do things, and sometimes that was fun, and other times I was groaning a bit. So it wore thin for me. But I with the caveat, I still had a great time. I mean, there are action sequences in here that are a hell of a lot of fun. There's a shootout in the library that we were talking about beforehand, and that shootout is amazing. There's some ideas in here that are better than the movie for me as a whole. I mean, it's kind of, for me, it was more like this weird noir film that it wanted to be, and it kind of worked, but yet sometimes it felt off. There isn't really any people in this town except for the people that are in the story, except for a cook. There's literally a cook and everybody else. We have a doctor and a nurse, but they're part of the story. But the cook isn't. The cook is the only person that just happens to. I don't know why, but it brought me out of the movie that there was no extras. There was no except for the. I mean, there are extras. That's not the right way to put it, but there's no, because there's a whole gang of bad guys, but there's no. There's hardly anybody in the diners. Well, of course there wouldn't be, because just made. So this is how I spent the movie. So it really, some of the constructs of the presentation had a negative effect on me, and for some reason it just felt like it was showy and full of itself. And you were saying yes, fight sequences. There are some amazing fight sequences, but there was a couple of them that I was kind of like, that's not really shot well. But having said a lot of negative things, I'm really impressed and interested with this director. I think there is a lot of potential with this particular director, and I'm excited to see what happens next. There's certainly a style and a flair to how this director wants to present stories. Be interested to see what comes next, or what may have come before. I'm not really sure what else this director has done. I could look it up.
Actually, yeah, Big Bad Wolves.
Oh, well, yeah, we saw that.
Yeah,
I like that one. I remember that movie. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, this one's a lot more stylized now, but that one did have its own stylized flair too. But this one is, as far as the set and the lighting and music choice and stuff, is far more stylized. So anyway, I guess the short end of it is that, I don't know, it kind of wore thin.
Well, I think it's easy to people to see that. I mean, it's okay to have that. I mean, I can understand that. It's a very showy film because it's overly stylized, and the production design is amped up because the whole library makes no sense. It's like you think they keep it locked up, and then they have all these weird library rooms. Like one's like a undersea room and stuff with jellyfish and stuff
out of nowhere.
Well, and it's like I don't know. It's like if this library is only supposed to be for people who need weapons or whatever, you'd think that you'd have to have some kind of pass or password to get in there, but things like that. But at the same time, visually, it made for something cool to look at, And I will say, it's like the first action scene in the bowling alley. There was a couple. Some of the movement of the main actress was kind of lanky or whatever, and I could sort of understand how some people might see that, but at the same time, I'm like, there's like a whole thing in like the hospital setting that's both hilarious and cool when you have these guys that she beat the shit out of
in the bowling alley,
and they're like slowly, like all injured, slowly going up, and it has like that, like if you took a Western and everybody was like hurt but they still had to fight, and how she had to figure out ways to do that. Also, there's like a scene towards the end where it's all shot almost like a one long shot in slow motion. I thought was brilliant, where people are getting hurt and people are jumping out the window and stuff. I mean, things like that were kind of cool. And even the fight in the library scene where Michelle Yeoh, she's got this chain that she's using.
Yes.
And Angela Bassett's almost doing her thing of the raid where she's got two hammers and she's beating the shit out of people. I mean, they're like so many inventive like uses of weapons and stuff at different scenes that really worked well. It had the young girl from My Spy, who I think evidently she's going to be the girl who's always in these spy or like these hitman movies, who I thought was great. I think she's always great.
Yeah,
I'm her apprentice.
Yeah. Real quick. Wait, let me interject real quick. She's going to be in Avatar 2, and she's filming the Dungeons and Dragons movie as well.
Got
all right,
career.
Continue.
I guess we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I was thoroughly entertained, and just the production design. There's almost like one part that's almost like Edgar Wright's Baby Driver, because they have these guys wearing like monster masks, which I haven't really seen do that before. And there's a bit involving that I laughed out loud about because I thought, oh man, I didn't see that coming, but that makes perfect sense. But yeah, it's entertaining. It's got some great, but yeah, it's overly stylized, which I can understand how someone might see that as being like showy or pretentious or whatever. Because there's a lot of slow motion shots that don't really necessarily need to be there. It's like just people walking into the room and they play this music. And they use like a I forgot the type of piano it is, but they use like this sort of tinny type piano, like old timey piano as part of the score that I thought was kind of cool. And maybe that's where the sort of the Western thing kind of comes into a little bit. But yeah, the humor in it I think is really funny because even Giamatti, there's like a scene where he's he's telling these guys like, I need you to go out there, and then he would stop talking, and there's like the whole bit of them not knowing when when they're supposed to go or what. I don't know. There's this. I thought the humor in it was great, and again, it's like that goofy side. If you took like the John Wick stuff and you made the bigger stuff even goofier, you know, instead of the hotel, you have this restaurant, you know, instead of the people giving your guns, you have these people in the library. So it has all those elements that are part of these other type of things created in their own sort of mythology and world. But it's in a normal world, it doesn't make sense, you know, but I feel like it's more comic booky to some degree. It's
right.
Sort of like Batman, you know, Tim Burton's
felt
Batman.
more like a graphic novel type.
Yeah. So I think to me, I didn't really bother me if they weren't like normal people on the streets, because this was just their own. This is an alternate universe where they have all these things happening. Yeah,
but you're right, Doc. A bowling alley with no employees and no people there, and I don't know, the mall with no people in it, and.
Well, the mall looked like it was closed down.
Well, I think most of the places were kind of closed when they were going to them. So I can understand why they wouldn't. Nobody would be there.
But I don't know. It started to bother me after a while. But I don't know.
I didn't. I mean, I could see a few places where I was like, but the most part, I was totally entertained. I think. You know, I wasn't being as nitpicky because I realized this is a weird world they're creating. It's not supposed to be based in reality.
Yeah, there is that's true, and there is some world building, but for me that it wasn't. It needed just a little more beyond her and you know, this firm, right? I mean, it kind of does, but I don't know. It just seemed, you know, like if you go to John Wick, you know, we get to see him actually running through New York City at one point, right? You know, you see a lot of world in the, you know, alongside the world building, and I don't know, maybe it's a budget thing, I don't know, but I will say I enjoyed the car chase, and there's a unique aspect of it that is highly implausible and never would happen that way, but amen, they did it, and that had to be fun,
and lots of gore in this too. Beheadings and people.
I noticed there was I was noticing there was one that was cut out. They didn't, even though this is R-rated, they still cut it. If you notice when they drive away, and you know, because one car wrecks into a forklift, and it yes. And when they drive away, you can see that there's a head on the forklift, but we don't get to see it. It cuts before you can see the head. But
we do get a good shot of the head though.
It
was a very quick shot of the head balanced on the forklift. The car drives away.
But it's a very brutal. I mean, there was several scenes like, oh, ow. Because like especially the guns with the knives on them, to where she could just like stab and then shoot, you know, and
those are awesome.
And there's a little bit of Toretto superheroism in here, you know, because she gets hit with the big hammer and still breathes, you know. Come on.
Well, John Wick probably could have ended after the first.
Well, that's true
first
too.
Movie. You can't really that's a movie universe. You can't really
same with like the Fast and Furious. You know, you've got that. You know.
Well, let's not even get to Fast and Furious. That's its own wacky. That's its own wacky universe.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give it our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. There are plenty to choose from. But before we do, if you're still listening, we want to thank you for hanging out with us. We hope you're enjoying not only this review, but many others we have on the site. And if you'd like to help us out, hit the subscribe button and share with a friend. That will do wonders, and it's absolutely free and easy to do. And leave some comments when you see this film, and we think you will. Let us know what you think down below. All right, let's do this. You don't get to go first very often there, Christopher G. Moore. So let's take advantage of this opportunity and give us your first impression. Or no, you've already done that. Give us your final thoughts, your score, and your favorite scene.
Yeah, Gunpowder Milkshake is right up my alley. It's like I said, it's very, very overly stylistic, you know, and you can definitely see a lot of the influences, but I mean, I think it works. I mean, yeah, it's not perfect around the edges, but it still is kind of interesting. And I think a lot of that has to do definitely with a lot of the actors involved with it. It was great to see, Angela Bassett and Lena Headey and all these different Michelle Young, all these different Carla, what's her name? Carla Guillen.
I never can. Yeah, Gugino. Yeah.
Yeah, I can never pronounce her last name. Seeing these actresses and the young actress from I Spy, who I think is always a gem whenever she's in it. Although I will say, like, the goofiness of this, there's a lot of times they're not they don't really play into the real drama of what's happening. Especially
not at all.
if you have a family member die, I think probably her character will probably be more emotional. But overall, I thought this was a blast. I had a great time watching this because there's a couple of scenes of like choreography. You can see that there's a couple of things where things didn't connect perfectly, but then like there's other things with like bowling balls and stuff that worked well, and other all kinds of objects that people get hit and hurt that work really well. And there's some really great sequences that made me like, wow, I would say there's sequences that really stand out because I think sometimes some of these action films, it feels like the same type of thing over and over. Like the last John Wick, there was a kind of repetition with things. This one, they had like specific sequences that really worked with a great visual style that made me actually go, wow, that's really cool. So I'll give it a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed this. I thought this was
nice.
I had a lot of fun. This is probably the most fun I've had watching something on Netflix in a while.
Good.
I'd watch this again, and I would watch any sequels based on this. There's a lot of really fun dialogue, a lot of really, really great production design. It has that sort of goofy nature that like the Kingsman had, I think. And that kind of weird world building where this does not exist, will not exist in a real life, but I'm all for it. As for favorite scene, I'll have to say that's the hospital scene, where the bad guys show up to fight, and they got people with casts on them and walking with crutches and a wheelchair, and then they're like slowly. This is kind of some fun, fast fight in the beginning. They're just rolling, and then she's like incapacitated because her arms are numb, and she's got to like put a gun on one and a knife on and she's got to figure out ways she can still move her feet but her arms. And so she's just using the lankiness of her arms to do things like shoot her gun and stuff. And there's some really ingenious ways of her having to deal with stuff, and how it ends, I think, is just perfect. I love that. I was like really blown away. It kind of reminded me of the Wolf of Wall Street, when the guy couldn't barely move and he had to figure out ways to maneuver. I think the physicality in that is brilliant, and I think it's probably one of my favorite action scenes I've seen in a while.
Wow, nice.
So I think that's probably the one standout because just the ingenuity in how that happens, and also just the humor around it, because just these characters that she already beat the shit out of, and she's got to show them.
What did she call them?
Oh, what did she call them?
I can't remember. She did have a name for them.
Yeah, like the dumb heads or something, or dumb butts,
blockheads or something.
Anyway,
it was
butthead. Oh yeah, I can't remember what it was, but the dialogue I think it really is fun in a lot of these scenes as well. But yeah, that's the thing that I was really kind of blown away by. I was like, wow, this is well orchestrated, and is up there with some of the better action scenes I've seen in a while.
All right, Jeff Moore, you're up next. Your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene.
Well, I'm basically with Chris in that I guess because it's so stylized, I was willing to go along with a lot of that stuff. There's a heck of a lot of implausible things that happen, or even settings that are implausible, but it was just fun. I mean, when they had the opening and then they go 15 years earlier and it was this like old school diner. I love that setting. Love the library. Most of the fight scenes, I agree with you, Chris. Love the cast. So I don't know. I'm just repeating what Chris said. I'm going to go 3.75, and I'm favorite scene. Then I'm going to take Angela Bassett's matching set of guns with the I don't know, the huge knife for bayonets on it, because that was just that was like something I hadn't seen before, and she had ways of using those that were really interesting.
No, that was Lena Headey, wasn't it? That had that.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely
Angela
right.
Bassett had the hammers.
That was Lena Headey.
The hammers that were conveniently on.
She had the hammers, and I really enjoyed seeing Michelle Yeoh on here. And not to, I mean, I had just seen her recently on the latest Star Trek incarnation, where she was a real badass. So this was a different character, and she did a really good job.
Well, she used some of her beginnings, some of her movement and stuff, using the chain felt like something out of an old kung fu film. So.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, she was great. Yeah, this film has a lot of strengths going for it. The cast, it is very stylized, and that is fun. The fight sequences the inventive ones are really, really cool. I think the ones that don't go for that inventiveness are the ones that fall flat. Like the first battle in the bowling alley as an example. And to me, the film wore thin for me, but I'm still recommending it. I'm still enjoyed it. I would watch it again, and I would watch another one. I would like to see these characters again. They're a lot of fun, and the ending, the last scene with them is kind of a nice sweet send off for these characters. I'm going to stop there. I'm giving it a 3 1/4. I feel like I almost want to give it a 3.5, but I'm going to stick with 3 1/4. I have a feeling that if I watched it again, I would be willing to go 3.5 or maybe even higher. So maybe that's what I'll do. My favorite scene, I'm going to do 2 scenes since I can. I'm going to do the funniest scene. The scene that made me laugh out loud is they're in the elevator. They know the bad guys are coming, but they're trying to get out before they get there. And when the elevator door opens up, they're all there. And this is after Karen Gillan's got her arms kind of numb, but she still has this weapon in her hand because she's kind of getting her feeling back, but not. And the son of the bad guy looks out and he looks at him like this, and she goes to shoot him and just throws the gun instead and hits this guy in the nose, and he goes, oh! It was just really good comic timing and all this craziness going on, and it took time with reactions, like people wouldn't know what to do because it was so weird, right? And they're just standing there staring at each other a lot of times, and it was rather funny and delightful. So the more it was into that, the more I was enjoying it. But I'm going to say my favorite scene, since nobody else took it, is the diner scene that is in slow motion, and it spans from the left of the diner all the way to the right, and all the bad guys are in the diner, and our heroes are there, and they're just all fighting them, and I mean, there's even a part where somebody gets hit, and the blade that they had like a machete, and the machete's flying in slow motion, and people are getting knocked out the windows, and
being shot while
they're getting shot while they're jumping out the window later. So there's all this really, it's really a beautiful scene. It really is. And I really did enjoy that part of it when they had.
Well, yeah, just watching it, I was like, wow, how did they choreograph all this? I wasn't sure if they had if they did some kind of green screen stuff between things, because there's even without giving anything away, there's even a character that gets their eye cut, and I was like, oh God, I wasn't expecting that, So because there's it's in slow motion, but you see everybody's doing action. Every character, even closer up in the background, Angela Bassett, each one of them are doing all these different things, and it goes on, and it's almost like a little mini story as it goes. And because it's slow motion, you get to see all it, because if you saw it in normal motion, it would probably be over in a second. But I thought that was brilliant. I was like, wow, this is so freaking cool. I've never seen, and it's all done in one shot. But just to plan that out, I don't know how they did that. So I applaud them. That's a really great way to sort of close out the film.
Mm-hmm. This is fun. It was fun. And there's plenty of other scenes to choose from the car chase to the fight in the library to, put these on. I'm going to be a little noisy, and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of fun things. I'm liking the movie more now that we're talking about. Damn it, this happens every week. All right, that's our review of Gunpowder Milkshake. It is streaming on Netflix. Check it out and let us know what you think down below. You know you want to. Jeff, thank you for joining us here on Heroes and Droids. We hope you come back for some future installments. And
thanks for the invitation.
And it was always fun. Yeah, you can always, Christopher, thank you for joining me.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk about this film. I really got a kick out of this.
You did. I'm happy. That made me happier in watching the movie.
I was smelling certain parts of this. So
I thought you said smelling. That was really awesome.
Smiling, not smelling.
Yeah, I thought you were. Never mind. It wouldn't make any sense.
No,
I know what you were thinking. Nobody that's watching this will get it, but I know what you're thinking. If you watch one of the other podcast reviews, you'll know what he thought I was going to say. But no, I was smiling.
Smiling. Let's say goodnight.
Night, everybody.